So this is going to be part 5 of the visuals tutorial series. We're going to pick up right where we left off with framing and macro terrain and hop right into some more stuff with natural features. So in it's part 2, we looked at this a little bit in terms of incorporating natural features and hazards into the general fabric of the course, be it routing, hole designs, and that kind of stuff. Now we're going to revisit some of that, looking at it more specifically from a framing and macro terrain perspective. This stuff is relatively straightforward for where we're at now. So it's not a super long or particularly intensive portion, but we're going to start things off with, you have to start here for this topic. It is going to be the back 9 on Pasatiempo. And so the things to pay attention to here are, or the main thing is, you'll kind of see the way that the different barranca portions are woven into the fabric of the course, where the holes are placed around them, but also the way they play into the visuals in terms of framing and other things. Here's hole 10. You have a blind tee shot out over the hazard. This thing cuts. We'll see here. This is kind of a portion of the barranca, and it's even more apparent now looking back at this. If any of you remember my course, Chicola, the 11th green on that course is a very severe rip of this. But anyway, in this case we have these bunkers here they're a little bit pointing towards the green all through this barranca, and the green is positioned in a spot where if we just follow the natural hazard flow of the land, it enables that to happen. I forgot I have to click. That's number 10. Then we come over here to number 11. And this is one of the more famous holes on the course. If we just stop here, we can see that this one, you have a much deeper portion of the barranca, and it runs up along the right side of this hole. There are a couple things to look for here. The main ones, at least as we're concerned with now, would be where the green sits. We can kind of see the land on the far side is all going in this direction, and the hazard itself is kind of leading up to this right portion of the green. And in here, this part's more advanced. If we look at the way this fairway is shaped on the near side, the green kind of sits right in the middle of things. So this hazard's all the middle is there, it guides you to the right, and the land on the left also brings you back to the green. That's a jump more advanced. That's something I'm still working on with my stuff today. So that's hole 11. Beautiful golf hole. Very difficult as well. 12 here. The green's just on the far side and it's propped up. Frame-wise, the main thing here is that the little bit here is kind of leading towards the green side. It's not a ton. And then 13, let's skip a little bit of it. There's more going on with this hole than there appears to be from first glance. And also, if you're watching this back, feel free to pause at any point if you need to, in terms of just having some extra time to look at things. So here, you can see a little bit more, the barranca right here. As we move up a little bit, we will see that the barranca kind of guides this way. These bunkers are maybe not in it, but this bunker points towards where the green is. It's also pointing in the same direction as the barranca itself here. So that's going this way, and then these bunkers there are kind of going like that. But the barranca itself, where we continue, goes right to the green. That's also going to come into consideration on the next hole, 14. Which is probably it might be the most famous hole in terms of how the barranca is incorporated. So just from here we can see. Right in here, that's part of the barranca. It runs directly through the fairway. So once we get a lower view of this, we can see something else. The green site for this hole is right over here. If we follow the center of this barranca, it's leading in, what do you know, this direction. The green sits pretty much in line with the hazard. Yeah, here's green. Skip. So that's the main thing for this course. 15 is not super important for this topic. Even 16 isn't, but I want to show 16 just as an example of a very awesome, yet also kind of disorienting blind shot. We can kind of tell the hole moves this way a little bit, but not really. This is a step back in reference to what I had at the end of the last part. And it's kind of running along the left, up and over, and I would jump. But here the Barranca starts to come back through over there. And then this bunker kind of helps to point from the Barranca towards the green. More on some specifics with that in later portions of the tutorial series. That's 16. 17 and 18 are not super important. They're nothing that we haven't really gone into yet. Have to do this exit full screen. That's the first part of hazards. The main idea is everything you've seen. The takeaway is remember that hazards can also be part of the visual. They can play into the frame, the way they mesh with the terrain at large. It's just as important as everything we looked at last time. It's just one other step on top of that. So let me find where we are. So the other thing here is I've kind of mentioned how the hazards a lot of the place it plays a part in kind of pointing to where the green is. And going back to some stuff that was said previously, a lot of that is by design. Kind of taking the features and, because this is real golf, you can't just manufacture everything here. Placing the greens in spots where a lot of that happens on its own. Just like in parts 3 and 4. And then of course, I didn't mention when I was showing you this, but hole design and hazard variety through the roof. The way it kind of sneaks around the left side of the green on 10, cuts all the way through the middle on 11, just in front of the green on 12, kind of diagonal in towards the green side on 13, part of the fairway on 14, and then diagonal in front of the green to the right on 16. And then 15 plays across part of it. 18, I might as well show you for variety. I guess they've already gone through it. Plays across a lot of it. Right here. Very dramatic golf hole to close out the round on. So basically everything from part 2 about routing still applies here. So the next step here is it doesn't just have to be hazards that are in play. In this case, everything I showed you here is largely in play, assuming that you hit, like if you don't hit a wildly bad golf shot, you can still hit a shot a little bit offline, a little bit wayward, and find the hazard. You don't just have to use hazards that way. We're going to have a quick look, not get into too much detail because much of this course is a little complicated for where we're at right now. This is going to be Necedah Pines. Many of you who are around in TGC 19 may remember this course. You might have fond memories of it. It was arguably the best course in the game. We're just going to have a little look around here.
After your previous round of golf, we bookmarked it for you. Time to kick off things here on the first hole.
So right off the bat, we have hazard. And it's a little bit more complicated. This is picking up where we left off. So here, I don't know if you guys remember, if not, you may want to just check back real quickly on part 4 near the end. It was the 14th hole on Cypress Point, which the fairway kind of dog-legged around to the right this way, off the left side, but then had like a coastline kind of sweeping in off the left, which gave it almost a little bit of dual movement. Here we have the same thing. If we go a little farther out here, we can see that this whole right side is coming back in line with this little hill, dune, whatever ridge thing towards where the green site is. But the water has a purpose too. this hole's two-step movement is kind of out to the right following the river, creek, whatever it is here, and then back around to the left where it meets the dune. So it kind of goes this. That's the first one. On 1, it's actually in play. Back here on 2, we have a little bit of the same going on with the way the creek is used visually. There's a little bit of this. This hole's a little more advanced. I don't want to go into too much detail. I just wanted to show you that it's similar to 1, and it's still part of the visual, but it's not in play here. I believe this bunker is probably around a 300-yard carry from the back tees. So anybody who's playing from back there, well, you wouldn't be playing back there on sim, or shouldn't be playing back there if you can't hit the ball at least, 260 plus in the air. It would just be stupid to play a course with 530-yard par 4s otherwise, or 520 par 4s. But that hazard's not in play. Then we get over here to 4 might be one of the weaker visuals on the course, even though it's not bad at all. So I don't want to touch on that one too much. We're going to come into 5. So another example of a hazard that's not really in play. Has a little bit of a visual purpose though. You can see this part right in here kind of opens up straight ahead. And then the water here kind of seamlessly blends in with some terrain and planting along the left side here, giving you a little bit of this happening, and then out and into this row of bunkers leading this way. This course is definitely tougher. 8 here, this is much more in play. On this hole, there's a lot of other stuff going on, so I don't want to spend much time on it. The general stuff here with the water is it kind of goes this way out to the right, and then up this way towards the green. There's not a lot else beyond that that is at the level for where we're at now. This will be something we can come back to a lot later. And here, it's not in play, but it's a fronting hazard. Still part of the visual. Next stop, 11. Right here. So here's hole 11. And here the creek's kind of wrapping around the left side of the green. This part here, the way this flows this way, is kind of helping to lead the eye up towards the green site. That's, again, probably one step more complicated. And I actually think, wait, it's 12? And then 12. And that's going to be the last example for now in this course. And then 12, the main thing here is, once again, we have the creek, the river, whatever you want to call it, and it's going all the way from the left side around in front of the green, kind of leading towards this spot there. That's where the green is on this hole. It's a short, drivable par 4, and it's very much in play here. A little bit in play on 11, not at all on 9, not at all on 5 or 2, in play on 8, in play on 12. So you have a lot of variety with how the hazards are used, the angles they're set at, but more importantly here, they're being used as part of the visual in different ways, whether or not it's in play. That's a little more complicated. We will take another quick look at Coca-Cola, Chicola, or whatever you want to call it. And this will be the last stop for this portion. For part 5. We'll be doing part 6 after. This is designer, so no controller. I don't have the keys. Okay. Oh wait, I should just blank it out. That's why. So now we're coming back to this course. We had a little bit of a look at macro terrain stuff, a little bit with green sites, and we're going to come back and look more at the hazard features. So we can start off with this Barranca section right here. The main thing I want to point out with it now would be, let's just head over here to hole 5. We can see on this golf hole that one of the big things going on is where the hazard is. It is potentially in play off the tee. It is potentially in play on the approach shot. And if we pay attention to the visual here, if I get back to the right portion, we can see that it's out here, and then this part's kind of helping to bring the eye towards the green, a little bit towards the right side of it. Those bunkers are helping to center. We'll get into bunker stuff a little later. That's that. Then hole 17. Does this look familiar or what? Like, there is zero resemblance to Posset Tampa number 11 here, right guys? Zero resemblance. Obviously. Strategically it is different though. But we can see the visuals here. This left side of the hazard, boom, that's where the green side is, kind of going towards there. Then we also have up here this right portion, a little bit this way and around. Boom, that's where the green is. And something people may not necessarily notice at first, this upper portion. It's kind of coming down from where hole 8 is in here. Yeah. And through 9, front of 9. All that's leading towards where this green side is. So the hazards themselves are just as much a part of this frame as other things are. On number 8, it's not as big a deal. It's mostly just kind of a fronting visual, and then the bunkers are doing stuff from there. I want to get into either 1 or 2 more examples with this course. I cannot remember if I want to use 12 as an example. We might as well. So 12 is another example of kind of two-piece movement. There's one line on the left which is not as complicated. It's kind of this bunker here, pointing up this way, this bunker, and then the green. What's happening on the right side has some of the same stuff going on as one on Meseta Pines. So we can kind of see you do have a little bit of a Barranca coming out of this portion here. It is sweeping all the way up the right side of this hole. Notice how a lot of the land is moving with this fairway and the Barranca up to the right. And then it stops kind of at this hill. And it's partially helped by this back bunker. It starts to move back up this way towards the green. So you have a little bit of the same thing. This out here and then back up. That's number 12. But then the hazards don't necessarily have to point directly at the green either. They can just kind of play off things. This is a little bit of an example of that. We will be revisiting this hole a couple more times in this series, each time for a different topic. The main thing here is we have this little skinny kind of ditch thing in here, like sort of a Barranca, sort of a ditch. It's really hard to see alone because of the grass that's planted there, but it's down through here. I use some tanner grasses, different grass textures to accentuate it a little bit. And the idea there kind of wanders back and forth, and you can see a lot of it as it wanders very gradually down the hill. This is kind of leading towards where the green is, and then it goes off around to the left here. So it's kind of all moving this general direction. It's not directly towards the green, but it works well enough with the land that it doesn't really matter in this instance. It still looks good in the end. So those are some more different ways to use these kinds of hazards. It doesn't just have to be Barranca, it can be coastline in some instances. Here's one example. This one's good but not great. If we look at the way this coastline here is generally guiding the eye around this way towards the green site, and from stuff down here a little bit this way. towards where the green is located. That's just one example. So that's all I really got for you guys for this part. The main takeaway is relatively simple. It's that all the stuff with routing applies to hazards. From there, it's just a matter of how you incorporate them into the visuals.